Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AAMP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Recently, you would have recognized that during the debates of the budget during the Committee of Supply, that the Honorable Coretta McDonald, Member of Parliament for the APNU, suffered an unfortunate situation while sitting in the National Assembly. And not because of that she's not here tonight with us on this program, but because she's otherwise engaged in matters of national interest. She could not have been here with us tonight on this program, and therefore we want to tender an apology for her absence. In her absence, I would host this program for tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran. And as I said earlier, and I would host the program for tonight. So our topic for tonight is the missing link. But before we get there, let me say to our viewers that you might not have recognized us on this program for the past 2 weeks. And we would not have been on this program for the past 2 weeks, but we were engaged in a number of activities and events as it relates to being in contact in different ways and in different forms with our viewers. And so tonight, based on their submissions, based on discussions, the topic would have been derived, missing links. And so this program from the very beginning would want to express to our viewers gratitude and thanks for ensuring that you submit your ideas, your suggestions, your statements, so that this program can go on. We also want to, at this stage, wish our sister, the Honorable Coretta McDonald, a speedy recovery from that unfortunate incident she suffered while sitting during the debates of the National Assembly. So, Comrade McDonald, this program would wish you a speedy recovery. Time and again, we would have indicated to you that we receive calls from the teaching profession, the public service, which would include the general public servants, traditional public servants, members of the Guyana Police Force, members of the Guyana Defense Force, members of the Fire Service, and other government agencies. And so this program as it is, we come here based on those submissions, based on those discussions from our viewers. And so tonight we are going to, again, I say the topic, missing links. We are going to deal with 3 areas of concern. One, we're going to deal with education matters. We are going to deal with health matters. And we are going to deal with some general issues, all of which are very, very topical at this time in our country. So let us get going as it relates to education matters. And so, as it relates to education matters, let this program point out to you that there was this urge to open the physical building of what is referred to as the Underneath Primary School. But let me step back and give you a little background to that so that you would better understand. Underneath Primary School prior to that was an annex to the study primary. But because of the number of learners over a period of time coming from that particular catchment area in Red Village and Sandpit, it became necessary for a primary school, hence the Underneath Primary School. So that building was opened there, whether it was a new building rehabilitated or what have you. But recently, parents from that community complained bitterly of the state of that building, its physical state, leaking roofs, broken windows, doors not being locked, poor plumbing facilities, poor sanitary facilities, risky, so to speak, electrical fittings. And so that school, because if you recall, it was then the Regado who was performing duties, made bold in her statement that this is a spanking new building with all the facilities. But I want this program would want to advise the Redo that statements are only made when you can have the evidence to provide that it is really and truly a spanking new building. And this program would want to believe that despite the fact of boasting of a new building, that before the conclusion of the period of defects and liabilities, all these defects that this program would have mentioned of would have shown up. Very disgraceful. A waste of taxpayers' money, bad construction, bad engineering, poor quality of materials. And not only that, building across this country when you go. All our learning institutions, they suffer from poor materials, defective materials. And let us coin a term, low-class materials. And so at the conclusion of any of these learning institutions, whether rehabilitation, whether repairs, whether maintenance, whether a new building, whichever format might fit in, before, and this would only go for new buildings, before the end of the conclusion of the period of defects and liabilities, taxpayers' money are made to be in the waste. And this is sad. And why it is sad? Because it is having a very negative effect on our learners and our teachers. And parents are complaining bitterly day by day of these defective buildings, these learning institutions, whether it be nursery, primary, secondary, post-secondary, these things are happening. And so let us turn our attention to the Onanimian Primary School. That building was built to a particular capacity, meaning to accommodate a number of learners. It has outgrown that with the same building. And so what is happening? That the library area, the staff room, and all other areas that were set aside, apart from classrooms, these areas are now being occupied, used as classrooms. And all of them are so cramped. The existing classrooms, the library they are using, the staff room and other facilities that were constructed there for other reasons. But the bottom line is that the school and the learners therein, the numbers, would have outgrown the size of that building. That is what you call poor planning. Regional education officer, are you listening? Somebody tag the regional education officer. And it might not only happen, but we are pointing out on this program a particular school that the evidence is there. And it is happening across every region, every education district in this country. And that is a waste of taxpayers' money. And so that school now has, instead of 150 that it was built for, constructed for, 224 learners, 19 teachers, and 2 teachers are seconded to that school from the Pomeroon. And so the question is, why are these teachers from the Pomeroon seconded to that school that is so far remote? If they are going to train in college, is that not a form of punishment for those teachers who are on secondment to attend training college? Or if not, why is it they would have been seconded? Is it for reasons best known to the regional education officer? And so this is the situation they're in at the Onanimian Primary School. And the situation replicates itself across other education districts in this country. A very, very painful situation in the delivery of education in this country. And so we want to deal with a second point as it relates to the Department of Education. You know, this is the period in which our children, our learners, nursery, primary, secondary, post-secondary, showcase their talent in different ways and in different forms based on the programs as set out by Central Ministry, the Alliance Department, and the different schools and education districts. And so, having concluded all of these activities at the regional level, and having selected a team that went to Georgetown to represent this region last week, it was a very sad and shameful situation As our teachers and our learners journeyed to Georgetown to participate in activities over those 3 or 4 days, and as they traveled from this region, leaving the comforts of their home, they were met with a very sad situation. Sad in the sense that they were promised that they would have been staying at a particular place. And when they arrived there, they were fooled by the Department of Education, the REDO and staff. And so they had to rush to seek accommodation elsewhere. And so our teachers and our learners who were there to participate in the events were very, very heartbroken, uncomfortable, as they were placed. I do not want to name the organization in which, or the organization that controls this building and where the building is located, because the teachers and parents having heard from their children that the state of affairs of that place was very sad, very dirty condition. The mattresses that they had to sleep on was in a very deplorable state. The washroom, very deplorable. Mosquito infestation, other insects infestation. Poor sanitary facilities, as I have mentioned, with no running water or little running water. And so this regional education officer of Region 2 and the officers of Region 2 took the children out of this region under condition, promising the parents that they would be in very excellent condition, so to speak. And when they get there, it was the poorest of condition that they had to adhere to. Let us use that term, adhere to, for the couple of days that they spent there. But that was not all. And here is where all the regions in this country that had to participate on Saturday in the Children's Road March, as they venture out of where they were accommodated, or for those traveling regions, there were no instructions given to them. These are all reports from the different regions. Because the activity was poorly organized by the Central Ministry of Education. But you see, when you don't want to involve the persons, the organization, or the agency that would have the people with the know-how, so to speak, the knowledge, so to speak, the experience, so to speak, you keep them out because you are of the opinion that they have a different view from your view, and you want to sideline and keep them out. You do not recognize you are helping to destroy our teachers and our learners. And so that event, all events rather, but more particularly on that Saturday for the Children's Road March, it was a disaster. No instruction of where our learners and teachers would assemble. The level of hostility meted out to them. These are all reports to this program. The accompanying music was a sad fear of affairs. And so to conclude, it would say that the entire activity for the 3 or 4 days there across this country from all the education districts was very poor. But one of the major things that would have been highlighted, it is that the regions that were resident for that period of time, some of them, especially Region 2, the food that the children and the teachers received was very poor standard. A very poor standard. But let this program remind the regional education officer of this region, Region 2, that the money that would have been spent there is taxpayers' money, state money. And so this program, as advised by our parents and our teachers, are asking the bold question for the regional education officer to account for the hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on this activity, very poorly organized, children and teachers very poorly fed, sleeping under harsh condition, dwelling at the particular place under insect infestation, poor water facility, poor lighting facility, all the things that would go with bad accommodation. And so this program is being asked by the teachers and the parents to have the regional education officer say publicly how state funds would have been spent or misspent as it relates to this activity. But before we come off of this particular activity, because there's confusion across this country, because come tomorrow there's going to be the Regional Children's Road March. And in Region 2, the schools have been poorly, that's what's reported today to this program, that there are varying instructions to these schools. And so tomorrow might be a disaster, as last year was, as it relates to the road march. And so this program would have been asked to bring this to the attention of our viewers. And Region 2 is being used as the example, but the same thing might replicate itself across other regions. And so it is important. Now, this is what was, I want to read it verbatim of what was said. Educators, that is in Region 2, are hesitant to voice concerns due to prior threats following social media posts regarding the Department of Education. A political figure, and the name is mentioned here, from the Department of Education has reportedly been coercing other district education officers and the regional education officer to discipline these teachers who have been posting and sharing their concerns. Now, if this is the situation that our teachers are now being made, and our teachers are now being made to be disciplined because of them expressing their constitutional rights as enshrined by the Constitution, then something is wrong. But this program has always been advised that officers of the Department of Education, including the regional education officer, always in a situation conducting the affairs of the Department of Education in fear. Our teachers and our head teachers living in fear because of this particular, the attitude, unprofessional behavior, conduct, and the level of professional decorum of this particular district education officer. Teachers, I want to strongly believe that with respect, you should continue to make your voices be heard. Do not sit idly by and allow one person to dictate your professional conduct. I would want to believe that members of the Central Executive of the Guyana Teachers Union are listening to this program. And this program is now placing the Guyana Teachers Union, the executive, and all the branch executives, not only in Region 2, but across this country, placing them on alert of such an unprofessional behavior, unprofessional behavior of such an officer that might not only be in Region 2, but in other regions. And so this program is very much concerned because our teachers and our head teachers and the officers of the Department of Education Region 2, they are living in fear because of this very situation. This program is still to conform on something that the program would speak about next week as it relates to the emblem of the Department of Education Region 2. And so that is to be made known next week. We turn our attention now to a release. And I'm going to read part of it and make that comparison with what we are trying to do while other countries are in the reverse because they do not see the merit in it. And not that this program is advocating for a reverse. This program fully supports the good programs of the Ministry of Education. This program supports fully an orderly conduct of every program managed and organized by the Ministry of Education. But this program is not going to subscribe to situations in which billions of dollars are expended for the delivery of education to support that. This program is advocating an orderly meaningful level of accountability. And next week, this program is going to deal with the budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Education, the Teaching Service Commission, and the different regional budgets, so that we can point out the defects, make the comparison of what has been spent now, last year, the year before, and to look at the points in which there were no achievements. But let us come back to, and let me read. Schools, this is an article. And this article is now premised on what I would have made just now, the remarks rather. Schools in Sweden are abandoning screens and digital teaching to return to traditional teaching, learning with books and writing by hand with pencil and paper. Let me reread what I read just now. The article is saying that schools in Sweden are abandoning screens and digital teaching to return to traditional teaching, meaning learning with books and writing by hand with pencils and paper. But let me tell you, the population of Sweden, I'm making now a comparison. Sweden has a present population of 10.7 million people. Guyana, whether the census is true, correct, verify or not verify, is about 750,000 people. Not a million. Not a million. So don't confuse the situation trying to introduce aspects of the system that cannot work at this stage. The level of readiness is not there for our learners. The level of readiness, the preparedness, and the facilities and resources therein are not adequate and relevant for teachers to deliver. You spend billions of dollars on education and training of our teachers. That is what is allocated. But how relevant are these training programs for teachers that are in the classroom? How relevant are these training programs as it relates to the use of all these things that you call digital schools, digital classrooms? How many schools are so equipped with computers to maximum? You know, like you say, books, class size. For one class, you have that set, class set rather. Do we have computer labs in this country? And the answer that they would come up with, they would say yes. Like in this program you call the gold program, that some regions receive computers, same old computers as the beginning of computer age in this country. Let me repeat what I said. Same age of computer as was introduced in the computer age in this country. So can you imagine the type of computers and the programs that they have for the gold program for them to complete assignments? So this program is very much concerned, but is very supportive of, we want to make that point, in programs that would enhance and keep abreast with traditions and international standards. But this program is concerned that of these billions of dollars that are now being spent, how much of it for training of our teachers and of our learners would take them to where we want them to go based on the situation. And so this program would wish to bring this to the attention of the public. Now, recently, there was a newsroom post. So first page says, and I'm going to make some deductions from this article just now to see how is it in the education system. That system that you call the school's welfare officer system and the level of the heads of education departments and the education officers that reside in those departments does not necessarily mean they live there. Reside would be, in this case, their professional conduct they're in at that department. So it says Police in Region Division 2 have launched an investigation into the discovery of a quantity of suspected MDMA at a secondary school on the Essequibo coast. But let me just this program point out that this article might be then, but it is more than one school in Region 2. More than one school. You cannot hide this situation because our parents need to be involved. And I do not know how much help the police can give. But that is another story when I talk about the conduct of police in Region 2, including the regional commander, Region 2. This program is not fearful of bringing out situations. And the host or the co-host, which is me, I am not fearful of saying what the things ought to do to be. Right? And so the article further says police in regional division. Well, let me make a correction. There is, all right, I'm going to make that correction later on. Police in regional division 2 have launched an investigation following the discovery of a quantity of suspected MDMA at a secondary school on the Essequibo coast. So as I said, more than one. The incident occurred on Wednesday at approximately 10:46 hours after school authorities reported the matter to the police. According to police ranks responded promptly and were handed several small transparent Ziploc bags containing a substance suspected to be MDMA, commonly known as Molly. The suspected narcotics were reportedly found in the possession of 2 students and inside a classroom. The substance was seized and weighed, amounting to a total of 5.82 grams and was subsequently lodged as evidence wherever it was lodged. I don't know if it's the Department of Education or with the police. The 2 juveniles, aged 14 and 15, were escorted to the police in the presence of school officials, their parents, and a welfare officer. During the course of the investigation, a 20-year-old male was also arrested and taken into custody. Now, it is also arrested. This is bad because those students were not arrested. So you cannot say also arrested. Was arrested. Police say 20-year-old remains in custody. Let this program say to you right now a number of things. that this entire incident stepped no further with any investigation than on that day. And because this program was told, allegations, that because of who were involved, allegations this program is saying, the matter would have been swept under the carpet. A number of lessons. One, how prepared are, and we talked about training just now, based on all these scenarios and social situations, how prepared are our teachers? The Department of Education, the REDO, the school's welfare officer, and all, maybe not all, but some of the officers, they are a waste of time. And maybe we can suggest that they are more delinquent than the students that they call juvenile 14 and 15 years. So this program is asking the question, what guidance are given to our secondary school learners? And this host of this program tonight, once upon a time served as a regional education officer and happened to have been able to organize successfully activities for our secondary school learners and teachers, with all the officers of the department being included and staff members, as to career fair, job fair, a whole host of activities that would have involved our learners. That was the time when we had very strong PTAs. And the Department of Education worked with our schools, especially our secondary school in those days, to conduct lots of parents' conferences and to be able to involve in those conferences the members of the SEAC. I wonder if the regional education officer and the officers of the Department of Education, maybe we can go to the chief education officer and all the officers there. Do they know what is SEAC? Well, let this program say to them. They should find out what is SEAC, because that was of help to our schools. They don't know it, and this program will not seek to tell them or to advise them. They would find out. And the Department of Education in Region 2, more so the school's welfare officer, and maybe to suggest all the departments of education in this country, and there are 11 education districts, despite the fact we have 10 regions. They are failing our teachers and our learners. And while they are trying to destroy the strength of the Guyana Teachers Union, a partner in education which says as its motto, we mold the nation, trying to keep out the Guyana Teachers Union from activities, trying to dissuade our teachers from being members, And on the other hand, when they are members, not members of the union and cannot be properly represented, they cause them to be the praise and take advantage of them. But teachers, you have an opportunity to ensure that you join your Guyana Teachers Union, become a member. Your representation is needed. And you heard early on what this program spoke about as advised and instructed by a comment of the conduct of a particular district education officer that resides at the Department of Education, Allegation Region 2, trying to coerce the Redo. Well, the Redo can always be coerced because if you know that she was appointed politically without any public advertisement, interviews, and what have you. So she has to be able to play that game in accordance to her appointment. And teachers, you ought to be able to know where you have to be protected. And so that is it. So we have moved away from that as it relates to that article, but much more is happening in our secondary schools across this region and across this country. And quite recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, there was also a report of an incident that involved our teacher and our learner at a particular secondary school in Region 2. This program happened to be in that community a few days after engaging not at the school, but the parents and teachers of a particular secondary school. And fingers were pointed by the parents and the teachers to the mismanagement and failure of the regional education officer. Some of the officers and names were called, the failures, including the one that is threatening people, a failure, and the entire school's welfare officer system, in the region. They were also concerned that at this particular school, like some of the officers of the Department of Education, the head teacher of the school, allegations, suggestions that the head teacher of the school is more out of the school, attending to matters of catering than to be able to supervise the plant. And so they pointed out strongly, both the parents and the teachers, that having had the head teacher out of school conducting personal business, financial business, and not attending to matters of the plant, those were situations, if it was there that the head teacher would have been attending to matters of the plant, those situations could have been reduced or completely out of the picture deal. So this program thought it fit that that also should be part of the discourse as it relates to. Let us make the point before we go on, as it relates to senior appointment. One point about senior appointment. Like the regional education officer and some of them that were appointed without any public advertisement, interviews, unlike as this program would have indicated some time ago when there was that public advertisement for the appointment of district education officers too, when a particular district education officer, one in Region 2, would have been boasting that that appointment would go to that officer, the district education officer, two, moving from 1 to 2. And it happened because of contact and whose relative is sitting as a member of the Public Service Commission. Let us move that into the situation of the public advertisement by the Teaching Service Commission to fill senior vacancies in non-board schools, in nursery, primary, and secondary school. Across this country, the feedback is, and we're using the situation where the district education officer, one boasted that the district education officer would be district education officer too because of connections, that some persons, teachers, would have indicated that there's going to be only be a formality for them because they would have already been promised appointment in senior positions, much to the dissatisfaction of those who are eligible to be appointed. And so there's going to be serious supersession in these appointments that are to come out. This program is making it known tonight. But teachers who are being superseded at that particular time, this program is advising you to use the necessary channels to make your objections. And so this program is placing those teachers who would be disenfranchised to make that situation. If you look at the point system as awarded, as set out rather for award of points, it is disastrous. And it is there set out to help some people. But all these things happen because the Ministry of Education failed to contact, to consult with the Guyana Teachers Union, which is normal and customary. And that normalcy and that customary conduct would have been thrown through the window for a couple of years. It is not good for you to throw away your partners in education if you want education to be delivered in a very special way. And so we come to another point. And there's an article that I do not want to read, but that was sent to this program. But this program is going to give you that at a particular primary school, secondary, rather nursery school, that was recently rehabilitated with not so high wind, you had the destruction of the roof of this building. And so the nursery school children and learners rather, and teachers had to be accommodated with their furniture under a tent. This is an indictment on the part of the management of education in Region 2 and across this country. How do you have our nursery school learners under that condition for learning? Maybe those at the Department of Education and many who are lecturing at CPC Essequibo branch do not understand the psychology of learning. And they do not understand the concept of readiness and preparedness and the environment that would so be conducive to learning. And so that is or then was a very sad situation. But this program is bringing it to the attention of our viewers in an effort to point out that there is this boast of spending millions of dollars for the repairs, rehabilitation, refurbishing of buildings, and this is the end product you get here: poor quality of work, as was mentioned earlier in this program. And so there are allegations that the primary school next to this nursery school, as you would have mentioned in this program just now, that there was an award of a contract for the construction of the fence at the Queenstown Primary School. That is not an allegation, that is an award of contract. The award of that contract would have been made to fence the Queenstown Primary School. Point number one to note. There are allegations that a particular head teacher of a particular primary school that was administratively appointed without the requisite qualifications, experience, and all the things that would follow. Administratively appointed, as you would have said, would have had that administrative appointment, much to the disadvantage of those who were eligible, but because of, and these are all allegations, that the same administratively appointed head teacher is a relative of a head of a particular church, religious body, so to speak, and they are part and parcel of those who give out contracts. Because the same person who is head of a particular religious grouping, last year, you would recall, had a contract to weed and clean a burial ground of just over $600,000, $700,000. 2 contracts. One contractor had to do the work on his own, while the other contractor, who is this religious person, had the NIA pieces of equipment doing the work, getting full payment. That is an indictment. It is cheating. It is collecting people's money, state money, under false pretense. This program is not a religious program to say it is sin unto the person. But we walk and bear our own sins in our own ways. But let us come back to that fence. And that fence, their allegations would have been awarded to this administratively appointed primary school head teacher, who at that time been appointed not fulfilling the criteria therein, if there were criteria set out for that appointment. This program is going to briefly mention that there has been complaints to this program where a church would have had the devil's part of it as it relates to the same situation. But this is for another program. And so we want to be able to deal with that as it relates to. Final point on education. CPC branches across this country, and this program made it known that there was no specific entry requirement for teachers to go into training college at the nursery, primary, secondary level, at either pre-service or in service. The circular clearly said that if you were in the system, either at a private school or public managed school, you can apply or you walk in for enrollment at these training institutions, all under the umbrella of CPC. And so this program wants to make it known that from reports from the lecturers therein, in all of the branches of CPC across this country, and at Turkine, the parent branch, so to speak, that there are serious concerns by the lecturers that as they continue to administer these program outline and teaching these different courses, that the students therein, because they did not meet the requirement for entry into training college, they are finding it difficult. They cannot cope. But they were instructed to ensure that there is no failure in any assignment, any semester or year, but to ensure that the cohorts therein are all qualified and pass, whether written exam assignments or what have you. But a score of pass mark should be assigned to them. These are all allegations that were put to this program. There is also an allegation put to this program in which a teacher that was once attached to a school in Region 3, now in Region 2, at Anna Regina Branch CPC, here not attached to any school. This program is making, because it is allegation, here not attached to any school in Region 2, but attending Teachers Training College at the Anna Regina Branch, that this teacher is receiving full salary from the school the teacher was there in Region 3. This is a matter for the Chief Education Officer and those who are in charge of dispensing education. But more so, this program is calling the Auditor General to seek to clarify, not only clarify, to bring this situation to where it belongs. So let us move now to health issues. Very quickly, a few health issues. One, Recently, this program spoke about the disappearance of items from the Oscar Joseph Cottage Hospital in Region 2. And this program called out boldly those who are in charge of health in Region 2 and the Auditor General to seek to address this issue. This is another issue that would have been swept under the carpet. And so taxpayers are feeling the squeeze, so to speak, as it relates to the misuse of funds, having had this concept of disappearance of items. Recently, 2-3 weeks ago, this program was so advised that items that came for public hospital study, maybe it was sewing machines, allegedly disappeared when it was time to account and places on the inventory. Allegations. And so this program is calling out, why is it that the hospital administrator should not be able to account for and answer both the police and the Auditor General as it relates to this matter? Because these were allegations put to this program. And it is the duty of the program to bring it to the attention of the public because it is taxpayers' money. And this program also brought to the attention of viewers some time ago of that fire. This is not an allegation of that fire that started to whatever extent there was at public hospitals study. And this program, having been advised, asked the question, why is it the police did not call for the hospital administrator at public hospital study to have been able to answer and give a statement that is still lying or there hanging, so to speak, in the air? These are serious matters. And all these things are left hanging. And then the Lima Regional Hospital, there is serious trouble of the management of that hospital. And persons have indicated that because of the attitude of the styled hospital administrator, the hostility that is meted out to members of staff, persons are leaving. That needs to be looked at. Doctors and other staff members are complaining bitterly of the conduct of the regional health officer, the very unprofessional and allegations put to this program, the very hostile and unprofessional manner in which the regional health officer would speak to them. And in some cases, nurses and doctors have complained that the level of unprofessionalism would have met to such a height that the regional health officer is not on speaking terms with some of the doctors and nurses. These are things that would need to be investigated because this program some time ago brought to the attention of the public what is happening with the building that is still not yet 1 year old. And so another thing about what is happening at the Lima Regional Hospital, there has been report of serious overstaffing of the support staff. 5 or 6 persons doing one work that one person can do. And so the rest is wasting time collecting taxpayers' money under false pretense. Auditor General, you need to do work and don't fight up with whether you are going to get a 2 years extension, which you are not eligible and entitled to do. And it would be to the detriment of finances and audit in this country. But that is another story that this program is going to speak about. And so it was brought to the attention that there is a particular pharmacy assistant woefully inadequately underqualified or no qualification for that position. But you have forces like those employed in the public service, whether approved status or not. But there has been report of this pharmacy assistant being very hostile to levels of members of staff, including doctors. Reports are that this person cannot read simple prescriptions. There are further reports that as this person gives, while this person cannot read but attempt to give medication, so to speak, and when these medications are shown to the doctors as prescribed, they are wrong medication. And further, it would have pointed out that this particular pharmacy assistant is allegation collecting drugs and medical supplies for whatever distribution in the particular community and for persons in the community in which this pharmacy assistant reside. This here is not an investigation for the regional health officer. This is an investigation for the permanent secretary, Ministry of Health. This is an investigation for the Office of the Auditor General, because people are going to be hurt in the process by wrong dispensation of medication. But you cannot want to fulfill political desires in education and health to do a disservice to those two services, health and education. And so it is that this program is calling out at this time the Auditor General, Office of the Auditor General. Now, very quickly, this program was made to understand allegations again that in a particular village of South Essequibo, that a senior government official has parked somewhere in a village, as mentioned early on, a minibus, well covered. And so the public, this program was advised by villagers of that particular village of this situation, and would have asked this program to ask for the intervention of the minister under which this particular employee is employed. Just a statement. Now, recently, this program saw a document. 8 newly constructed NDC buildings. This is the budget debate 2026. And all the buildings would have been mentioned. Let this program make it known that in 2019, that this building, this NDC building, as stated here in the 2026 budget debate, construction of Nile Scotia NDC building is a farcity. Construction of the Moruca Providence NDC is a farcity. It is misleading information to the National Assembly because the host of this program in 2019 served as regional executive officer of Region 2, under which these 2 NDCs come under, and there were 3 new NDC buildings in the Pomeroon that would have been constructed, completed therein in 2019. But to come to say at the National Budget Debate 2026 estimates, reporting on these, this program is setting the record straight that it is not. It is false information presented to the National Assembly. NDIA vehicles. This program made it known some time ago. And it has become a weekly situation, especially during weekends. That at a particular private mechanical workshop, that NDIA vehicles are lodged there for whether repairs or not, or for an arrangement that this program might want to suggest for payments to be made for work not being done. And so this program is calling out the Minister of Agriculture, the NDIA CEO, and the Auditor General to take a special effort to look into this situation. It is accountability for taxpayers' money. And so this program is very much concerned of that situation because there is a regional mechanical workshop right in Region 2. There is the Essequibo Technical Institute. And again, once upon a time, the host of this program was the principal of that technical institute. And therein made all arrangements so that the regional vehicles and agencies of government that are in the region can take their vehicles for service in there, and others can go therein to the regional mechanical workshop. Last year, the Region 2 administration confirmed and add to its number, making it 6 now, as it relates to 6 permanent employees in the regional mechanical workshop, and 4 or 5 therein you call the part-time workers or 10 days a week worker. So that would give you a great number of persons attached to the regional mechanical workshop. And the question now is, why is it NDIA vehicles are going to a private mechanical workshop to be serviced every weekend? and not at the regional workshop or at the Eskimo Technical Institute. This is cause of concern, and it is concerning because taxpayers' money might be used for nothingness. And so that needs to be done. Illegal and unauthorized mechanical workshop. Next point, as we move on to general issues. In a residential area causing noise, dust, and chemical pollution. This program has been bringing this to the attention of the viewers and bringing it to the attention of those in authority, and more particularly, 5 agencies: the EPA, GPL, Ministry of Labor, NIS, and GRA. But let us go here to the EPA. The EPA this year, on the budgetary allocations, and the public must know these things, to see how a government agency is receiving money and not attending to the business of concerned citizens. Because this particular matter would have been reported to the Environmental Protection Agency since May, April thereabout in 2024, and continuously they have been receiving monthly reminders but have been doing nothing, collecting state money, the people's money, under false pretense. And so this program would wish to say to the public that for 2026, there is a total allocation or expenditure therein that they would undertake of $1,229,605,000. And of this, salary alone, employment costs would be $846,294,000. And there's a light item for fuel and lubricants, which would result in $8,561,000. And then there's a further traveling and subsistence line item, $69,942,000. And then there is a further submission there of other expenditure, which gives you $68,928,000. This program is bringing this to your attention to show you that the Environmental Protection Agency continues to receive the people's money, state money, and is not performing their constitutional and statutory duties. This is an indictment, and this program is going to make these figures available to all viewers at a particular time, because many persons are so affected by the inactivity of the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, there has been report of illegal connections of GPL facilities. But there is an agency or a branch of GPL you call something recovery, some unit or something, loss reduction unit. That loss reduction unit is a unit that would bargain with persons who are in default and settling the matter at the expense of the state and their benefit. And there is this continuation of persons being illegally connected, especially these workshops. And then NIS. There is also NIS not doing its statutory work. And if it is doing, like GPL, are so compromised as it relates to these workshops and private citizens. And if you go last week and this week to NIS, you would see the officers so busy with the contractors there, allowing them to get their what you call the NIS compliance for contracts, and the pensioners are there waiting for hours. Ministry of Labor, especially that branch in Anna Regina, is also a compromised unit. They do not understand the concept of what are the requirements as it relates to health and safety matters for businesses, workshops, and other places. And once they do that visit, this program is conscious of the fact that they are also compromised. These are all situations that are adding to what this program, the subject, the topic for this program, the missing links. If we continue like this, there are going to be further missing links, and there's going to be no change in this country. Viewers, this program would wish to thank you very much for tuning in, and to ask that you continue to tune in to this program every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. This program would wish to thank you very much, to say good night, and to go with God's blessing. Thank you very much.